Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast, episode number 149. Travis T-Bone Turner, the Redneck Pep Rally, World Championship 3D Archery, the evolution of the bow, and Thor's hammer. Please support our sponsors as they make this show possible.
Today's show is brought to you by
Morse's Sporting Goods. Big Buck Registry is a virtual museum of hunting stories. We preserve a piece of Americana by interviewing and recording hunters about their hunts and experiences from across the country. And who knows, maybe we'll learn a thing or two along the way that'll help us take our hunt to the next level.
Hey everyone, it's Eva Shockey. You're about to listen to another great episode of Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast.
I'm Chrissy Titus. I'm co-host of RMEX Female Television Show and NRA I Am Forever. Gear up for another amazing episode with Jay and Dusty on the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast.
This is Nick Percy from Killer Food Plots, and you're listening to my favorite deer hunting podcast, Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast. My name is Jay, and thank you so much for joining us on this amazing day. You know what? It's going to be another great show, and I'm glad you pressed the play button, and I've got your ear for an hour because we're going to be talking to somebody very important in the deer hunting industry, and we have a lot of respect. Super smart guy. I also have a lot of respect for this other guy over here that's joining me right here, right now on his microphone, Dusty Phillips from Ohio. What's going on, Dusty?
I'm recovering, Jay.
No doubt. I am.
Had one hell of a time hunting turkeys in New Hampshire last weekend.
I had more fun. It went by so fast, and there was so much action. It's mind-boggling how much action we had with the turkeys in such a short amount of time. I've never seen it like this in New Hampshire, and I was impressed with the things we were able to do. And I'm psyched that you came up. And I don't know. I think it was this year just had more than anything we've ever had before. I mean, I've had good years in the past, and I've seen plenty of turkeys, but not quite like this. There's something going on in New Hampshire in the turkey woods.
Dude, it was everywhere you look was a strutting tom.
It's a great...
Everywhere you looked.
That's true. That's very true.
I mean, not just like one or two a day. We'd see 15 to 30 a day.
Right.
It was crazy, man. You know, yeah, we didn't capitalize on everyone we seen, but we had ample opportunity, and I was fortunate enough to take a big New Hampshire long beard back to the house with me.
Your turkey was tremendous. The spurs on the thing were just amazing.
Yeah, it was a crazy, epic turkey hunt. That's for sure, man.
Yeah.
It's one of the best 5-day hunts I've ever been on.
Same here, and it was even better because we were with great friends between Greg,
right, yeah, for sure.
Greg and Mike Behrman and you and me and AJ came in there for a little while, and what a just memory that I will never forget ever.
Right,
this epic turkey camp that we seemed to put together. And I want to do it again next year, to be honest.
Absolutely. It was a great time, dude. I thank Greg and Jen for allowing me to stay up there for a few days there and welcome us in their home like we was family, man. And, we got to hang out with you and Tom Staples and the guys over at Morse's Sporting Goods. It was just an awesome time.
It was great. And Tom was so instrumental in getting us on some good birds, too. He was such a piece of that puzzle. So, thanks to Tom and thanks to my wife for letting me go out and play with you guys for the time you were here. That was very helpful, too. And she's a good sport.
My wife and Mike Bierman's wife and Greg's wife, they're all sports in this. And, they allow us to do what we love. And, my God, do we have a great 5 days in New Hampshire, Jay. I'd never seen nothing like it, man. And I thank you for letting us come out and hang with you guys out there for 5 days. And I look forward to doing it again real soon.
I can't wait to do it again. I would assume that your opinion is that the turkey hunting in New Hampshire is far better than the deer hunting.
Oh, my gosh, dude. We did see deer, though. I will give it that.
That's right. See, I told you they're here. The deer are here.
I did see a lot of deer in New Hampshire in 5 days. I come out and hunted with a rifle and had zero opportunity. It was zero sightings of zero deer. But turkey hunting now, I'm telling you, New Hampshire is phenomenal for turkey hunting.
I can't believe I'm hearing that from a guy from Ohio, where it's blowing my mind. So if you're out there listening and you want to check out some amazing opportunities in New Hampshire for turkey hunting, you heard it right here, right now, from Dusty Phillips, who's lives in Ohio, where there's just game galore. He came to New Hampshire and said it was awesome. So there you go.
It blowed the doors off of any Ohio turkey hunting I've ever done.
Crazy. It just blows my mind that you're capable of saying that in a sense that it's actually real. It's true.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. I've seen more turkeys in New Hampshire. All in all, together, Joe, we've probably seen over 300 turkeys in 5 days.
Wow.
You know, you was there. You seen them.
I was there, and I saw them all. And it still blows my mind that there was that much going on.
It was unbelievable.
Very cool.
It was. I can't. You sit down and think about all the turkeys you've seen, all the sightings, and you know the opportunity that everybody that was hunting there had in our group. My gosh, dude, there was multiple times that we got on birds and something just didn't happen the way it should have, or we just was in the wrong place and they scared us by 100 yards, or we blew them out, or. But it just, every time you blow a turkey out, dude, you jump back in the car and drive till you find some more and go in and try to shoot, get set up to kill them.
And that land use thing in New Hampshire is one of the best resources for New Hampshire as far as hunting is concerned. It makes life very interesting when you deer hunt.
For sure. You're real fortunate to have all that access to, it's privately owned land, but if it's not posted, it's public access. So
right.
That was just amazing, dude. Turkey hunting in New Hampshire is phenomenal. I will be back. We're doing that again, 100% guaranteed.
I cannot wait. I can't get here fast enough and we're a year out. But I'm going to keep pursuing my bird. I kind of laid off the gun while you guys are here. I did kind of go after one, but I admittedly already screwed that up because I didn't approach it the way I normally should have. So we'll get it done, and I've got 3 weeks to do it. But what a phenomenal time. So thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jay. It was awesome.
We have an awesome something else going on, and that's our guest on this show. And it's Travis T-Bone Turner, part of the Nick Mundt and Michael Waddell clan there. We had this great opportunity to speak to Travis and had just a very good talk. The guy was very technical, and I guess you don't realize how intelligent somebody is when they're on TV unless you get to talk to them like you would on a podcast where you get to ask some pretty deep questions. And man, the stuff he's got in his head about archery, phenomenal. He knows more about bows and probably forgotten more about archery and archery technology than I would ever know, to be honest.
Right, for sure.
Crazy good guy. So before we get to Travis T-Bone Turner, let's turn to Jim Keller with the Deer News.
For the Big Buck Registry, this is Jim Keller with the Deer News. In our first story this week, Minnesota DNR urges everyone to leave deer fawns alone. Deer fawns are being born now, and the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources asks that people avoid disturbing or picking them up. Most fawns are born in late May and mid-June. Leaving them alone gives them the best chance of survival, even if they appear to be fragile, said Adam Murkowski, DNR Big Game Program Leader. We understand people often have good intentions, but we want people to know that fawns survive best without intervention, Murkowski said. Murkowski also offers these tips. Deer and moose nurse their young at different times during the day and often leave their young alone for long periods of time. These animals are not lost. Their mother knows where they are and will return. Deer normally will not feed or care for their young when people are nearby. Deer fawns can lose their natural fear of people, which can be essential to their survival. Keep domestic pets indoors, leashed or fenced in. Dogs can kill fawns and other baby animals. For more information on what to do if you encounter fawns or other baby animals, please check our show notes or the Minnesota DNR website at news.dnr.state.mn.us. Staten Island's Deer Management Strategy. This article was originally reported by Anna Sanders on the SILive.com website. Staten Island wants to give Bambi a vasectomy. The Parks Department plans to sterilize hundreds of male deer to help manage Staten Island's out-of-control and expanding herd, starting as soon as this fall's rutting season if the plan is approved by the state. The 3-year effort is expected to eventually reduce the burrow herd 10 to 30%. The city would spend $2 million the first year, with the annual cost going down as fewer males are left to sterilize. Sterilization was chosen because Staten Island's herd is mostly growing through reproduction, not migration. Sterilizing males instead of females would be faster, cheaper, and more humane. A buck's vasectomy only takes about 15 minutes after a bait and capture. Unlike does, male deer tend to roam alone, so they don't learn from traveling in a herd, making them easier to capture. There are also less male deer to capture. The city believes there to be about 200 bucks, as they usually make up 40% of the deer population. For additional details on this story, including links to the original article, please check our show notes at www.bigbuckregistry.com. Why do bucks lose their antlers? The science behind sheds. This story was written by Dave Kramer for Outdoor Life magazine. Why do members of the deer family shed their antlers when they do? And are there any cues that tip us off about when they're going to shed? During the spring and summer months, the increasing photoperiod triggers hormones that encourage the growth of antlers. As fall approaches, the decreasing day length results in an increase in testosterone, causing bucks to shed their velvet and prepare their antlers for the upcoming rut. The amount of testosterone peaks in mid-fall and begins to decline following the rut as day length increases into late winter. The decline of testosterone triggers hormones to reabsorb calcium in the bone around the pedicle. This enables the antlers to be shed after some weeks of this testosterone decline. In captivity, bucks often shed antlers within a few days of one another, but in the wild, a number of factors influence antler shedding, including region, nutrition, stress, and injury. Antler shedding in northern latitudes often occurs around January and February, but in southern latitudes it can range from January to April. Individuals in poor body condition may shed their antlers before deer with adequate food resources. Stressors, such as a harsh winter or injuries that may have occurred during the antler growth, often result in earlier antler shedding as well. So, just like hunting the bucks themselves, finding their freshly dropped sheds is largely a matter of luck and paying attention to both big trends and a few small details. Can Milorganite repel deer from food plots? This article is from the QDMA website. Milorganite is a slow-release organic fertilizer produced from human sewage. In 1913, researchers were faced with a problem of how to dispose of the biosolids left from the processing of sewage sludge. After experimenting with field crops, vegetables, and lawns, researchers concluded that this organic, slow-release fertilizer can be safely applied to plants without the risk of burning while providing long-lasting results. The trade name, Milorganite, was derived from Milwaukee Organic Nitrogen, as it is the treated byproduct of the Milwaukee, Wisconsin waste treatment plant. This product is often used for soil amendments rather than a fertilizer because of the low nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium values of 6, 2, and 0. Through a controlled experiment, the QDMA concluded that Milorganite is an effective temporary deer repellent for use in food plots. Though the repellent does not eliminate deer damage, and though its effectiveness dissipates with time, it reduced the overall impact compared to the untreated plots. Milorganite may be less effective in dry weather, while rain seems to enhance or reactivate the odor and the repellent effect. Milorganite may be less effective as a repellent where there are high deer densities, low availability of other food sources, and when weather conditions are extreme. Reduction of deer damage may further increase if Milorganite is reapplied at day 14, and further research in this and other areas is needed. The QDMA's results suggested that landowners, farmers, and sportsmen may be able to establish soybeans in a food plot if Milorganite is applied at planting, but before damage begins to occur. This was a very high-level summary of a very detailed article. Please check out our show notes for a link to this article to get the details of the QDMA study. That concludes this week's edition of the Big Buck Registry's Deer News. If you have any ideas for future topics or have questions about any of these topics, please email me at jim@bigbuckregistry.com. For the Big Buck Registry, this is Jim Keller with the Deer News.
Thanks to Jim Keller for the Deer News. Without further ado, here's Travis T-Bone Turner.
Travis T-Bone Turner, welcome to the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast. What's happening, my friend?
Oh, man, thanks for having me, guys. Just enjoying the spring weather and trying to knock down some of these turkeys right now. But, y'all, thanks so much for having me, guys.
How's the turkey hunt going?
Been good so far, actually. Season opened third week of March, and I've been traveling, doing a lot of appearances and stuff, so I haven't had a ton of time. But I've been out like 6 or 7 days and already got 2 birds, so I think I'm ahead of the game compared to years past, so I'm smiling ear to ear thus far. We still got another 5 weeks left, so that's good.
That's good, man. So where are you hunting this year?
Georgia. I'm actually just been hunting in Georgia now, but we'll do some hunting in Alabama, and then I'm going to Kentucky on Monday to their season opens Saturday, but I can't get there till Monday, so I'm going to hunt all next week up in Kentucky, and then usually by then I've done satisfied my turkey urge. I'm not eat up with it quite as bad as Waddell is, and I just love bow fishing. So weather will be warmer, and we've already been on a couple of bow fishing trips, but especially get towards the middle to the end of April, then bow fishing starts getting better and better and better. So I'll switch gears by May, usually all the way over into nothing but bow fishing and stuff with all my free time.
That's cool, man. Bow fishing is something I've never actually done, but I'm intrigued. It's one of those, it just seems like something that would be up my alley, and certainly, different than holding a fishing pole. I think I would enjoy that.
Yeah. I'm a fan of anything that has to do with watching an arrow fly, and that's kind of an off-season type thing. And the cool thing about it is you can do it with a bunch of guys on a boat, and you can, you don't have to be quiet, and you're going to get some shots. So there's a lot of good things about it. And if you've got any little bit of night owl in you, it certainly is up your alley. So you're always going to see stuff, and you're getting right on a boat and high five. Nick always says I like it because the fish don't run when you rattle a Cheetos bag. So he says that's why I like it so much. So,
so it is true. Our good friend Michael Pitts, our mutual friend, tells us that you are a big Cheetos fan.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And who isn't?
That's a good point. It's a very good point. I do like the night owl fishing, actually. I mean, this is one of the things I actually enjoy doing, and it's not like it's a monster catch or anything, but they're just fun to catch. You go out in the middle of the night, and you go squid fishing on the ocean, and you spend a few hours. There's hardly anybody around, but you'll fill up a bucket of squid, and if you like squid, fried squid, calamari. It came right out of the ocean with your own hands, and they're just unique creatures with unique hooks, but you have to do it at like midnight. That's because it doesn't work if you don't.
Oh, I've never even actually. I mean, of all the things I've tried or whatever, I've never heard of someone catching squid. I always wondered how they caught them. So yeah, it would be fun. I'd be game for that.
All right, man. We'll have to figure that out at some point. But it's a unique experience, and not too many people that I know have actually done it.
No, that'd be something definitely to check off the redneck to-do list.
That's it. It's a long redneck list, but that is definitely on it. Yeah, very much so. So, Tiva, where are you from originally?
I was born in Ohio, Dayton, Ohio, just north of Dayton, Ohio, in Huber Heights. My dad was a fireman for the city of Dayton, and he got transferred to Atlanta when I was like 5. So my whole family, we moved to Atlanta, Georgia, or just outside there in Douglasville when I was 5, and I grew up in Douglasville, Georgia, till I was about 22, and then I moved south, getting away from the rat race of Atlanta. I moved south to LaGrange, Georgia, is where I live now, which is just about 45 minutes from Realtree headquarters, and then also in a triangle about 45 minutes from where Michael Waddell grew up, which is Booger Bottoms, Georgia. So that's how I kind of got connected with those guys when I moved down here and started doing my archery shop. That's how I met them.
Gotcha. All right. Well, that's interesting. You're from Dayton originally because that's where Dusty is nearby. He's right about an hour outside of Dayton.
What town?
I'm about 12 miles southwest of Dayton.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's even closer than I thought.
Yeah, I live in Farmersville. Farmersville is where I grew up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my dad went to West Carrollton High School.
No kidding. I'll be dang. That's unbelievable.
Small world. Very small world.
It is a small world.
Yeah.
So you moved to Georgia and you got out of the Atlanta rat race, and I've been to Atlanta, and it's an interesting town. But I can see getting out of there and kind of getting back to the country and enjoying that part of Georgia more than anything. And so you hooked up with Michael Waddell down in those parts. How did you first bump into him?
Well, a little bit further backstory. When we moved here, my first job out of high school is I worked for Mercedes Benz in Atlanta, and during that time, I had shot competitive. My background is archery, so I had started shooting archery in the late 80s and just couldn't get enough of it. I mean, I had hunted all the way, when I was 5 and 6, and started archery when I was like 19, just out of high school, and just started competitive archery actually before I even bow hunted, and just couldn't get enough of. I just loved everything about it, and it seemed like I had a pretty decent knack for it. Just 4 days after I'd bought my first bow, my buddies had talked me in to go to a tournament, and it was our first tournament for all of us, and I thought, well, this is going to be very comical because I've only owned a bow about 5 days, but, without sounding arrogant, just call it lucky or whatever. We entered the novice division. There was 36 people in the class, and a blind hog found an acorn, and I happened to win the whole thing. So I thought, you know what? I've played sports all my life and just been mediocre at best, and I really think I might have found something I'm pretty decent at, is that, a stick and string. So I couldn't get enough of it, and all the best hunting was south of here. And, I told myself after working for 9 years in downtown Atlanta, I said, you know what, I don't want to do this the rest of my life. I want to, while I'm still living at home, I didn't have a wife or kids or many responsibilities. I want to try to do something in an industry, that I love and, be passionate about my career rather than just like, the 9-to-5 grind. So with that said, I went to work at a archery shop, which was just north of my hometown of Douglasville. I was in Dallas, Georgia, and went and worked there for 2 years, kind of learned the ins and outs of, I'd already knew a lot about working on a bow. If you're a competitive archer, you kind of got to be a bow tech yourself, and I started working in that shop. I learned the ins and outs of the retail side of it, and then a buddy of mine, he and I opened up our own shop, which was south of Atlanta, down where all the best hunting, all the best fishing was in 1994, so I moved down here, which was in the country where I wanted to be anyway, because that's, like I said, it was where all the best bow hunting and fishing and everything was. So we opened up a store down here, and that's when I met Michael, was in like 94, 95, because I was in this area. Realtree was just south of here, and, some of the guys that worked at Realtree would come by and, kind of, I guess filling me out, so to speak, learning how decent I was at working on bows and setting up their bows and getting them rigged up. And, we all developed a friendship. I started setting up all their bows, for their TV show and the DVD series. Well, back then it was VHS, actually.
Right.
And, anytime they had a celebrity, whether it be a baseball player, football player, country singers or what, they would always bring them to me. I told them, by all means, let me facilitate them, because, we as avid outdoorsmen, you look in magazine ads and you see people, models that have a draw length that's too long, the peep sight's too high, their anchor point's not right, or you see people on these TV shows and stuff I would watch and see that they're not set up right. And we all know that when you're shooting a bow, you need to have it fit to you, like a tailored suit. It needs to fit for you to, to be proficient with it. So, I basically shared all that with them and said, by all means, let me help these people have great experiences into the outdoors, because these are people that are in front of a lot of people, celebrities and such. And if they have a great experience, one, it's going to be better for the TV show, and then two, the people that they touch and they're around, they're going to have a pleasant experience to share with those other people, and hopefully it'll be a snowball effect and just get more and more and more people outfitted correctly in the outdoor industry and bow hunting. So that was kind of my, I guess, giving back to the industry that had been given so much to me. So we owned this archery shop together, and 2 years in, I bought my partner out, and I'm still competing every year. And, to back up a little bit, I was fortunate enough in 1991, I got lucky, and I won the World Championships in 3D archery. So I was, kind of climbing the competitive ladder and placing in the top 10 quite a lot, and, won a couple of state championships, and, just rock right along throughout the 90s. And each year, the folks at Realtree would, ask me to do a little bit more, help us set up the course for the Monster Bucks DVDs and VHS series, where they had a little archery commission. Competition. I would help make sure that their courses were set up and come up with some neat stuff that would be entertaining. And then in the late 90s, I think it was 99, they had came to me and said, we need something different. It had always been, and I'm not sure if you guys even seen the Monster Buck series or not, but it's, I think we're already into like 24, 25, 26 years it's been done. But
I didn't realize it had been that long. That's crazy.
Yeah, over 20 years. So we was about at number 9 or 10, and David Blanton had mentioned to me, said, we've been doing the little archery competition in between all the hunts that they do, and they said it's always been me, David, Michael, and Bill shooting against each other. So we need something different. Well, about that same time is when Foxworthy had a great relationship with him and was doing a lot of hunting. So I pitched the idea to him. I said, how about getting Jeff Foxworthy, and which he plays a character called Willie, and there was another comedian, first name was Shane. He played Billy, so it was Willie and Billy. I said, why don't you let them compete against you guys on the Monster Buck series, but even if it's trick photography or whatever, let them have some old bow and, just wear you guys out, just make sure it's fabricated or whatever, but,
right.
They beat y'all. And they said, yeah, it's a great idea. So they pitched it to Jeff Foxworthy, and he was all for it. He said, man, that would be great. So we'll do that. And Shane wasn't really a hunter or didn't even know anything about bow hunting, so he didn't really want to do it. So then they came to me and said, Trav, we need someone else that we want you to do it. Do you think you could come up with a character, an old backwoods character that would go hand in hand with Willie's character, which the Willie character had the fake Bubba teeth and the floppy hat and the overalls and, the boots and such. So, and it was a character that they came up with for the incomplete deer hunter that has been so popular over the years. So I said, sure. So I took an old whitetail hunter, which if anybody's over 35 years old, they're familiar with the Bear whitetail hunter. It was the number one bow model sold. I mean, maybe there's another one now, but, back in the 80s and 90s, 80s, some 90s, but definitely in the 70s and 80s, there was only 15, maybe 20 bows to choose from, bow models, whereas now there's 200, So I took that old whitetail hunter. I said, everybody will know this. This is nostalgia here, and took a fishing rod and reel and put on the front of the bow and, got the bow shooting really good. It was really accurate, extremely slow, but nonetheless, it was really accurate. So I come up with the character, and I said, what do y'all think about this? Had a big, long fishing hat with the bill was like oversized, so I had to cut a V in it just so that the string would come back, and just created this character. And they said, oh, that's great. Jeff Foxworthy loved it. And 5 minutes before we're going to begin filming, this was in 1999, they said, what are we going to call you? We got to have a hick name for you. Travis is not hick enough, and I'd never been called T-Bone a day in my life, but I just thought of it. I said, what about T-Bone? I said, that's easy to remember and short and, sweet. And they said, yep, we'll call you T-Bone. So 5 minutes before we began filming, we're all thinking this is, whether this may flop or it may not, this may be just 15 minutes of fame. We'll try this comedy routine with the Monster Bucks, and if it goes good, then good. If it doesn't go good, then, we'll do something else next year. But fortunately, everybody loved it. The women liked it. The kids liked it. It kind of broke up the monotony of just straight, 40 hunts on a DVD series or a VHS series. So it broke up the monotony, and I guess that was the year that the birth of T-Bone was around 1999 or 2000. So Realtree just continued asking me to do more and getting me to hunt on the videos, and I guess that was my start of changing of the guard, so to speak, from competing and touring all over the country. I haven't really done that, day in, day out since about 2002. I still do it, but not nowhere near like I did from 1988 to 2002. But instead of competition archery so much, now I'm on the bow hunting and the filming side.
Gotcha. Fascinating story. So, are you a detail guy?
Yeah, especially, I guess you could, I don't know if you want to use the word anal or OCD, or just, I'm really a detailed guy as far as, especially with archery stuff. I don't know, I just think there's always a better mousetrap, so I always make sure that it's bulletproof and solid. I'm all about that. So, yeah,
Gotcha.
To answer your question, yeah, I'm detailed.
Gotcha. What's your opinion and maybe an overview of the evolution of the bow since the late 80s? What have you seen that's so interesting? I mean, the technology's blowing my mind these days compared to what it used to be back when I bought my first Bear archery kit out of Sears and Roebuck,
Yeah. It amazes me each year, the innovations that all, and I've been with Hoyt since 1996. This is my 20th year with Hoyt. But, and naturally I'm a huge fan of them, but all the archery manufacturers, just the overall innovations with archery amazes me through, it could be releases, it could be sights, it could be arrows, and especially bows too. But the eccentrics, they're just so much more efficient, more let off. The cam is so much smoother. I can remember some of the bows that we were shooting way back in 88, 89. We were just doing everything we could just to try to reach 300 foot a second. Having to pull 80 and 90 pounds and super light arrows with overdraws. Whereas now you can do that, with 55 and 60 pounds relatively easy. One of the biggest things that I've seen that's been a transition is the limb designs. Throughout the early 2000s and such, you used to have the limbs that were on a 45-degree angle that actually cast. You'd have a lot of lunge in a bow. You'd have to wear a sling, and I still recommend a sling, but most people would use a bow sling because the bow would have so much lunge and it'd want to go forward, and you'd really have to play with your stabilizers to absorb that inertia from the bow. Whereas now, especially on a bow hunting model, you get a longer riser, but you have a parallel limb design, or even what's come popular the last 2 or 3 years is a sub-parallel limb, so that the energy is transferred up and down rather than lunging forward, so that the bow sits in your hand. It's way more comfortable. You have less fatigue because you are not getting the vibration from the bow is all going up and down, so the energy is going up and down, but their limb material is so responsive that even with just 2 inches of movement, you're able to cast the arrow and whip the eccentrics to where you get such efficient speed. So, yeah, bow designs have come a long way. The reflex riser, where you get so much more speed. I'm not a fan of speed per se, but you harness the speed with efficiency so that you can have more forgiveness. So, you don't have to have the fastest bow out there. You can just take that speed and use it for your benefit as far as accuracy and forgiveness. So, yeah, I hope that kind of touched on a few things for you.
Yeah, definitely.
I could talk details big time on archery for a long time, but, yeah, the innovations, each year I always scratch my head, what are they going to do next? And they always come up with something.
Yeah. Where do you think it's going to go next? What's the next greatest thing that's going to come out?
I think you're going to see more cam designs. I think that's going to be a continued wave of cam designs because, the bows are so quiet. You shoot a lot of the bows now and you hear them and you think, just by hearing, you think that bow's shooting like 240 and you pop it through the meter and it's like 310. I just think you're going to see, it seems like they've really been working on the limbs here lately, the limb material, because you don't hear of limb breakages like you used to 10 years ago. You don't even hear of limb problems anymore. And we're stressing them more than we ever have, but yet you don't hear of any problems. And the next thing, lately we've been seeing a lot of carbon risers. Hoyt's really done a fantastic job with carbon risers, which it's warm to the touch, so that even on the cold days you don't have to grab that cold aluminum riser. And it's so precision and so tough. You can run over them, drop them, and they're lightweight. There's just so many advantages to that carbon riser. I really just think it's going to be eccentrics. I just think you're going to see a lot more with eccentrics. I know Matthews has done a lot of stuff with the no cam, which has been slow, but it's pretty intriguing actually at the innovations they've had with that. So there's going to be a lot of good stuff.
So you're saying that the hand grip on the Hoyt is actually a warming grip?
Well, they call it warm to the touch because if you have a carbon riser, you can be in 15 degrees.
Yeah.
And if you grab, it's the same temperature, however, but depending on the material, it pulls the heat from you quicker, like anytime you touch metal versus like wood.
Sure.
And wood has the same tendencies like carbon. You can grab that wood grip or a carbon riser, and it's warm to the touch, meaning even though it is still 20 degrees outside, it doesn't pull your body heat out of you like an aluminum riser would.
Right.
Say the deer's coming in. He's, you know how you think they're going to come in, and that you're standing up, sitting there on ready, and he hangs up, and it takes 30 minutes for him to come that last 50 yards, and then you're sitting there holding that cold riser, and it's like, oh man, my finger's about to snap off. Well, you don't have to deal with that with a carbon riser. You can hold it all day, and it's just like you got a glove on. It's really, really warm to your touch. So that's the advantage to the one of the advantages to the carbon riser that I really appreciate, along with it being extremely light. I'm not a fan of a light bow per se, but if you start with a light bow, you can weight that bow with leverage, with back weights, or you can weight it the way you want to. Whereas if you start with a heavy bow, you can't trim the fat off of it. A heavy bow is a heavy bow.
Right. Gotcha. That's fascinating. I had not realized that was a situation, but I know what you're talking about because you touch metal on a cold day and you're like, not so pleasant.
That's right.
Gotcha. Very nice. So are you a fan of speed, or is it, I think you mentioned something that you weren't necessarily a fan per se?
Well, I am a fan of, I guess I look at speed differently. Speed to me means efficiency. Whereas most guys and most macho, the macho way of thinking is, hey, this Corvette will do 200 miles an hour.
Right.
So they think I got to go 200 miles an hour. Same thing, speed sells. So you got options when you have speed. You can take that speed and if the bow is IBO legal at 330 feet a second. Well, most guys or rednecks think, hey, I'm going to have that thing shooting 330 because it said it'll do it. So you'll shoot an ultralight arrow and you'll get it shooting 330 foot a second. Well, it's been my experience that once you get like between 280 and certainly over 300, you have to go all the way to like 340 before you see a difference in your pin gap under 40 yards. And if we're splitting hairs and we're actually taking advantage of the speed that the bow is, 98% of all your bow shots are going to be under 40 yards. So, you're not really gaining anything. So with that said, if I can get a bow shooting 280 to 300 feet a second, it's really quiet. That's when your bow is forgiving, especially if it's IBOing at 330. I would rather take a bow that IBOs at 330 foot a second, build myself a really forgiving, heavy arrow, which has high FOC, something with like 13% to 17% FOC, front of center percentage, where it balances heavier in the front. It has a good cast to it. It's got a lot of mass weight for penetration. With a heavy arrow, also taking the bow that IBOs at 330 and only shooting it in that 280 to 300, it's going to be more forgiving, it's going to be extremely quiet, and it's going to be extremely accurate. Because the difference in shooting, say, 290 versus 330, you can't even hardly see the difference in your pin gap only beyond 40 yards. Like your 65, 70, 50, and 40, yeah, those are going to tighten up. But that's not really an advantage in a hunting application because, going back to what I said earlier,
right,
90% of all your shots are under 40 yards. So if you're going to be taking a shot over 40 yards, I don't need that tight bend gap because I'm getting more advantage out of the accuracy. So then I'm going to take a laser rangefinder, and you're not going to take a rutting buck come running down through a holler at 50 yards through the hardwoods. The only time you're going to shoot a shot beyond 40 yards, it's going to be an elk shot or a moose shot, which is a larger animal, or it's going to be a methodical shot that you're going to take your time. Hey, that deer's feeding in the food plot at 65 yards. You're going to range find it 15, 20 times. You're going to have a bow that's really accurate with a really heavy arrow, and it's really quiet, and then you can take your time and make a precision shot. You're not going to need that pin gap difference, if all that makes sense. So I'm weighing out all the pros and cons, and to me, having a quiet, accurate, forgiving bow shooting 280 to no more than 300, I'm going to take that energy and that efficiency of that bow that is so fast, and I'm going to use it to my advantage to where I don't have to shoot 75, 80 pounds to get that speed. I can back it off and shoot the speed that I want. I'm basically, I can back it off a few pounds, shoot 280, 290, or build a heavier arrow up and have a cleaner setup, more efficient setup. Harness that energy in other areas rather than just sheer speed, if that makes sense.
It does. We were told that by some friends of ours that you knew your stuff when it came to the archery equipment and bow hunting, and yeah, I'd say you do. It's crazy how much detail that you just have in just describing speed. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I've just, not to toot my own horn, but I just can't get enough of this. I got an archery shop in my basement, and it's an archery range / shop, not necessarily open to the public, but, like I told you guys earlier, that's kind of what brought me to the dance. That's what got me involved with Realtree is, facilitating those guys with all their setups, and then the people that were hunting on their DVDs and stuff.
Right.
Well, even to this day, I mean, we're talking, almost 20 years later, I still set up like 40 or 50 bows a year, and I'm sure you guys, you talked to Michael Pitts about it, but, Michael Pitts worked for me for years,
yeah,
and, he's a great bow tech also, and between he and I, we facilitate, the needs of a lot of folks across the country, and, he's associated with Realtree too, so he's a guru just like myself, and I call it a laboratory because it's downstairs,
right,
the art laboratory, but we're always playing with different configurations and, learning more about FOC. I have a spine tester to where I can test the spine of an arrow 360 degrees. We used to float our arrows where you float them in
yep.
When we shot all aluminum before carbon became so popular, we used to float them in a bathtub to where you always get the high seam up so that they would all be spined perfectly before you fletched them. So it's a sport that you can never perfect. There's always something you can do more and more and more to help you out on that accuracy. What
do you like tinkering with the most?
Well, as of lately, it's been arrows. I've been playing with arrows. Just the weight of arrow is an arrow that the whole mass weight better than one that is heavily weighted. I've been reading a lot, and I was fortunate enough to meet Dr. Aubrey, which if you follow, there's a website called Trad Gang, and it's a forum, but they also have, it's called the Ashby Report, and it's like 124 pages about penetration. And this guy is not paid by nobody. This doctor, he's not. He just when he's got his doctorate, he's a physics major, and he's a doctor of physics. I guess I'm not saying it correctly, but he's a doctor of physics. But it was amazing getting to share some time with him and reading all that he's done about broadhead penetration, broadhead designs, what penetrates the best, extreme FOC versus a total weighted arrow, or where you put the weights in the arrow makes it penetrate better, makes it fly better. And it all goes back to, target archery. Olympic archers, they have extreme FOC because they're shooting accuracy. And a simple explanation of what FOC, are you guys familiar with FOC too much?
Not exactly, and I think there are many people listening to the show that would like to hear a little bit more about that. Yeah, so go ahead and dive in.
A good explanation on FOC is, a lot of times you just buy an arrow and you get the insert that comes with it, because most of them are carbon now. So the insert will weigh like 9 grains to about 16 grains, and then you have a 100-grain broadhead. 100 grains seems to be the most. Well, 10 or 12, 15 years ago, you could get 150-grain broadheads, you could get 125s, you could get 75s, and that's the way you change the weight of your head. Well, in today's, with the great components that we have, you can, it seems like there's not that big a choice of broadheads, weighted broadheads. There's tons of choices in that 100-grain category, but very few 75, very few 85, very few 125 or 150s like there used to be. Well, now all the engineering and everything is put towards 100-grain because it was so expensive for these broadhead manufacturers to have a wide range of broadheads. So you got a 100-grain broadhead. Well, what the arrow manufacturers have done have made brass or weighted inserts to where you can fine-tune your insert to put the weight in the front of the shaft so that you can build the weight up, get the mass weight of the arrow up, but yet you're putting it in the front. Well, the advantages to putting the weight in the front is with more FOC, I mean, you can get too much, but with a 12 to 18 to maybe upwards of 20% FOC where the arrow balances in relationship to where the center of the shaft. So if you take a 30-inch shaft and you measure it in the middle, which would be 15, and then you take and do a balancing point, you take and let it balance on an edge, the distance there in relationship to the length of the shaft is your FOC percentage of forward balance, and you want that to be about, like I said, 15 to 20% front of the center. And that means you've got heavy weight in the front, and then it's more mass weight. The logic behind that is it cuts the wind because the arrow is being pulled through the air because the weight is in the front of the shaft. A good way of saying, well, how does that work? Let's just say you had a 6-foot-long mop handle, evenly weighted, just a mop handle, no mop on the end or nothing, and you took and slung it out into the yard. It's going to go end over end over end over end because each end is weighted. Well, let's just say you took a 2-pound weight, almost like a hammer effect, and put 2 pounds of weight on one end, and you tried to sling it again. It would never make a revelation. It would never go around, right? Because like Thor's hammer, the weight would pull it through the air. It's not really pulling it because you pushed the arrow, but yet because the most weight is in the front. Once it leaves the bow, the heavy part of the weight is put into motion, and then the rear of the shaft is lighter, so it has no choice but to follow the heavy weight of the front of the arrow, if that makes sense.
It does. Yep.
So therefore, it means more forgiving. Once you've started it on its path, that means wind's not going to affect it as much, and that means it's going to be, it's heavier naturally because it's mass weight. Once it hits the animal, it's going to continue to penetrate more because it's heavier. And a lot of people argue, you can look on forums and, a lot of people argue, say, well, if you go with the formula in how to figure kinetic energy, they say you can take a 300-grain arrow going 300 foot a second, and it's about the same kinetic energy as a 500-grain arrow going 240 feet per second. Even though it's heavier and slower, if you did the kinetic energy through the formula that we have, which is feet per second squared times mass weight squared divided by 450,240. That's the formula to figure kinetic energy. The numbers are going to be about the same. Well, when the numbers are about the same, people think, well, hey, if they're the same, I'm going to opt for the lighter weight faster always. But kinetic energy is only measured at the deer's hide. Once you hit the animal, momentum takes over. So if I had a softball and a ping pong ball and I was going to throw it at you at 10 yards, I think you'd much rather, I threw it as hard as I could. I think even though I could throw the ping pong ball faster, you'd much rather get hit with the ping pong ball than the softball, because the softball's got some weight behind it and it's going to leave a mark. So that kind of shows you why you do want more mass weight, even though the kinetic energy is just measured at the height of the animal or at the face value of the target. It's going to lose its momentum way quicker, therefore not going to penetrate as well.
Gotcha. All right, so speed, kinetic energy, and then momentum. Those are the three things you kind of have to think about.
I tell you what, there's got to be a doctorate in front of a T-bone.
I don't know.
Gosh, I didn't know. I did not know this, T-bone. You're a genius.
Well, no, other people know it. I just translated it. That's all.
He plays a redneck on television, but he's actually a super genius. It's crazy.
Yeah,
well, I don't know.
Awesome, really.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, but I mean, I just can't get enough of that. There's just so many different combinations. Anybody that's into long distance shooting with rifles, they know all about that too, because of different powders, and that's why I've never got into that, because I don't think there's enough brain cells left for me. I've used most of them up in the archery world, so I don't think I can dive into another sport.
Gotcha.
Give me a box of shells, I'm good.
Let's transition and talk a little deer hunting itself, and talk about some of your strategies there and some of the techniques you use, and go on a hunt. I'll let Dusty kind of take the charge from here.
Yeah, well, let's get in a little bit. You carry a backpack out to the woods with you, T-bone?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and each hunt's different, whether if it's out west and, my physique, I'm not necessarily a Cameron Haynes or a guy that is into the, can do the extreme stuff, but nonetheless, for my size, I get around pretty good. But, if it's an out west where you're going to be spotting and stalking more, or tree stand hunting, depends on what type of backpack or fanny pack that you're going to take, yeah.
Let's talk about in particular Midwest whitetail hunt, and let's break it down what you pack in your backpack.
Well, definitely pull-up rope. You're always going to have a pull-up rope. Always take extra pull-up rope, because you never know when you're going to need. You'll leave one, or you'll need it for tying up something else. Always take an easy hanger. If you're a bow hunter and tree stand hunting, you got to have an easy hanger for hanging your bow on. I always take a bunch of those extra accessory hooks. I'm the type of guy, because of my tournament background, I don't shoot with the bow, especially in a whitetail tree stand situation. I don't shoot with the quiver on my bow. You practice all year long without it, and in my opinion, I've got that bow weighted just right so that it cants exactly right and it sits level in my hand. And then, I'm going to go hunting with a full quiver full of arrows, and it's going to change the way that bow sits. So maybe it's just an anal part of me splitting hairs, but I don't want that on there. I want to mimic close to what I'm shooting in the backyard as I possibly can. Plus, a lot of people don't think about it when they shoot with a quiver on the bow. If they're emptying the quiver, it's changing the weight each time. Every time you take an arrow out, you may shoot it with 2 arrows one time, 3 arrows, 4 arrows, 6 arrows. It's changing the weight of the bow and could change your point of impact. So I take the hooks for hanging up the quiver and such, and then naturally I'm going to take face mask, gloves. I usually take a heavier insulated stocking cap. Nick always gets on to me. We call them toboggans down here, but I know people up north say a toboggan's something that you ride, but we call them toboggans. But take your heavy hat. You're going to take your scent killer, the stuff that you're going to spray down, your scent lock stuff, so that you can spray down for scent. Depending on what time of year it is, you may have a thermocell if you're hunting in the early season down here, or even early seasons like in Kentucky where the bugs are bad. You're going to have your thermocell. Definitely going to have my knife, going to have my limb saw, pruners, usually have like a protein bar or some type of snack in case you out there longer than you thought you may be. Always going to take a bottle of water. Gosh, it kind of caught me off the deer season, so I'm not fresh out of my pack. I do better than what my turkey vest got in it right now.
Right on. That sounds like you pack a pretty full pack.
Yeah, and you're going to take a you got your binoculars on, but I always take like a lens cloth cleaner so you can clean your optics to make sure that they're clean. That's probably the most important thing I take. I tell everybody, and I'm joking, but yet I'm kind of serious too, meaning the laser rangefinder has been one of the best inventions ever, especially for a bow hunter. And I just about would forget my bow before I'd forget my rangefinder because I love that thing.
Yeah, that makes sense, though. That gives you a more accurate, deadly shot.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So your precision, and, you can sit there in confidence knowing that, that tree's this yard, and you got everything figured out long before any deer came in. So there's a confidence factor. It's just one less thing you got to think about when it comes time to touch the trigger off.
Any particular brand rangefinder you're using?
Yeah, we're I've been with Bushnell actually. I've been with Bushnell since the mid '90s. I've got the number 3 laser rangefinder ever to hit the state of Georgia. Maybe even in the southeast, but that's the serial number on it. I still got it downstairs. But they were the first ones to come out with a laser rangefinder. I should say an affordable one. That wasn't in the $2,000 or $3,000 range, and
right.
And they make a quality product, and it's really been proven. They win a lot of awards with their laser rangefinders. The golfers use them and stuff, and I've been really impressed with them. They make a variety of models.
All right, yeah. What camouflage setup are you guys using?
Well, we use the scent lock. We use the scent lock apparel, which is the carbon activated. Really, their slogan is proven deadly, and it is. I mean, and we use Realtree camouflage. Been with Realtree since the mid '90s, and absolutely love it. There's plenty of patterns to use. You use the Realtree Extra Green for early season because it has more green, and then the standard Realtree Extra, the later season. Then they got you covered for waterfowl and out west with the Max 1 and the new Max 1 Extra, which is a little more high definition. But the cool thing about the scent lock is, I don't want folks to. The cool thing I like about the scent lock is people ask, does that really work? And I like to say, well, it does really work, but am I going to sit here and tell you that you don't have to worry about the wind with the scent lock apparel? That you can't. There's nothing that's 100% bulletproof. The way I like to describe it is with the scent lock is the advantage to it is, if you went out there, you're a diesel mechanic and you smoked 2 packs of cigarettes a day and you went straight to the woods with your work clothes on, you're going to have a stink factor of, let's say, a 10, 1 through 10. Whereas everything you do to contain your scent, you're going to be helping yourself. So with you doing everything you right, you may take your stink factor, we'll call it, down to a 2 or a 3, or maybe even a 1. If you're bathing, if you're keeping all your scent apparel in a scent-type container, you're actually activating it in the dryer before you go out to the woods, you're spraying down real heavy, you're going to help yourself take it down to a 2 or 3. And you're saying, well, why is it worth that if you still got to worry about the wind? Well, this is my thoughts on that. If you're sitting there in the stand, how many times have you been to the woods and, the wind change on you? Or you have to deal with the thermals. The thermals are dropping or the thermals are rising, depending on the hillsides and stuff where you're hunting at. And the wind's always changing. We know the prevailing wind, but it's apt to change at any time. Well, if you're hunting on a food source and you've already set up in your stand site, well, you're not going to tear down and leave. You're just going to hope that you fool the deer. Well, if you've taken the steps to go down to a 2 or a 3, then you feel more comfortable about that. Well, when a deer steps out, I don't know what a deer thinks, but this is my opinion, is that if you're not as offensive as that 10, like that diesel mechanic we was talking about, well, the deer's going to think, well, either I think that the deer thinks that you may be 30 yards from him and it smells a little human on you, and he says, well, that I smell a human, but it's 300 yards away. Or it may think that there was a human through here 2 days ago because it's not as offensive. I don't know what the deer's thinking, but if this helps your confidence, it's going to help your hunt. And if we've all hunted food plots or food sources, we all know that when the deer start filing out, especially in the late evening, those first 1 or 2 deer are just we call them the alpha does. If you can fool that alpha doe, because they're usually the first ones to the field, and they're always a nervous nanny, if you can just let them get out into the field, it seems like every other deer comes to the field. They come with caution to the wind because they look out there and they see those 2 or 3 deer. They say, Sally knows her stuff. She's always nervous, and if she's out there eating, I'm missing out on some good grub. So I say all this to mean the deer that normally would pile in there after dark, maybe you're tricking them to get there 15 or 20 minutes early when we all know is the perfect time to shoot a deer. So to say that you're totally 100% deer can't smell you, no, you're not. But you're increasing your odds and you're splitting the hairs, making those deer move earlier or making yourself not as offensive to where you can get a shot at one of those deer. So it is a huge odd, increasing the odds in your favor.
Yeah, it only makes sense, that's something there that could change the way that somebody hunts and be more successful.
Yeah, and, we didn't have this 20 years ago. You're
right.
Still going to have to play the wind. By all means, play the wind, but it's nice to know that, a lot of guys they only get 1 day a week, maybe 2 days a week to hunt at maybe at most. It's nice to know that you're going to go to the woods and you got something on your side that's going to help you make those 2 or 3 hunts that you have in that weekend where it's just not totally botched because the wind was gone. So you still got a chance. You're still in the game.
Right, yeah. You lower that stink factor and you're golden.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's get in a little bit about your tree stand setups and, run through what you use as far as ground blinds, hang-ons, ladder stands. Tell us all about it.
Well, I guess I'm a little unique. Maybe not unique because there's a lot of big hunters out there, but, I'm not the common, 6 foot, 200-pound guy. So, I'm not, there's very few lock-ons that I hunt in because, one, the weight ratings, I'm over 300 pounds. So right. I usually mainly hunt ladder stands. Family Traditions, Ameristep, and Summit make some fantastic ones. I like the ladder stands. One, I feel more safe in them just because, I'm a bigger guy. I do hunt some lock-ons, but, safety means everything. And if you're sitting up in a stand that you're just nervous to even try to stand up, how are you going to be comfortable enough or have the confidence to shoot a deer? So I tell anybody, just because you see a lot of people hunting out of even if you are of normal size, even if you see a lot of people hunting out of a lock-on, if it makes you nervous, it's not going to be a quality hunt. You're not going to enjoy yourself. You're not going to have the confidence. So do something that you're going to be confident with. Make sure you wear a safety system. I can't tell you how important that is, whether it be the one that comes with your stand or it comes an aftermarket. The Hunter Safety System is probably the number one seller, and they offer a wide variety of them and a wide variety in price range. So there's no excuse not to have a safety system when you're in a tree stand. But I prefer the ladder stands. And then because we film so much, it either has to be a lock-on or a ladder stand because it's really, really just about impossible for a climber to, have a cameraman above you because, you're having to climb the tree both. So that makes it kind of hard to do. So we always hunt out of ladder stands or the lock-on stands. And then as far as ground blinds, Ameristep ground blinds we've used. We've used, about all the brands, but I surely like a panoramic type window, especially for filming, so that you're not just slotted in certain ones. And then I can't recommend enough making sure that if you're going to use a ground blind, to make sure that you brush it in really good and try to do it as much time as in advance. Don't pop it up and expect to hunt the next day because it's been, I'm not saying you can't fool the deer that way, but it seems like they know, if your couch is out of place in your living room, you're going to know it. Whereas they're going to know that too. If you just pop a blind up, they're going to say, hey, it's going to take them a few days to get used to it. Whereas if you can pop it up 2 weeks before, brush it in real good, they're going to be, used to it and going to be a comfort factor for them. Another thing is, it's been my opinion, is a lot of people zip all the windows up and they leave the windows up, and then when they go to hunt it, they zip all the windows down. And it almost seems like a black hole, like the deer come out and they look at it and it's like one big huge eyeball staring at them because they've been walking around this thing for 2 or 3 weeks, and then all of a sudden they see this black hole, and it's like, man, that just looks weird. It's just a big black hole over there. Even though you may be blacked out inside there and they can't see you, it's just that hole makes them uneasy. I tell folks to leave the blind like you were going to hunt in it, like leave it with the hole open so that they get used to it with a hole there. It's been my observation that it works better that way.
I couldn't agree with you more on that. So
yeah, and then another thing, which has been kind of a game changer, is we've been associated with Redneck Blinds, which they're elevated blinds. And I bought a farm out in Oklahoma last year, and we set it up, and there's just hardly no trees. So in order to set it up on the food plots or the food sources that we have, it's either a ground blind, but because you can see so far, I thought, man, this would be a perfect place for these elevated blinds. So these are Redneck Blinds that have vertical windows in there, so you can shoot guns out of them, you can shoot bows out of them. And to be honest, in the last couple of years, you can see a lot on TV too, but it has actually been a game changer. It really has, because one, that's another thing to help you with the stink factor. You can hunt in inclement weather. A lot of people say, oh man, you're just being a sissy if you're hunting in that. That's a ground blind. That ain't no. Yeah, I would prefer hunting on the side of a tree. That's my favorite way to hunt. But if there's no tree there and you're wanting to set this up to where you can take someone with you, you can take a cameraman, you can take a couple members of your family, you can still bow hunt, you can hunt in snow, you can hunt when it's really, really cold, you can hunt when it's raining. It really is a game changer. And with those vertical windows, it makes it easy. It helps with sound. You can get away with a little bit of movement by shuffling your feet. It really is a game changer. they can be kind of pricey, but if you own your own farm or you have a lease, you know, a couple guys can go in and buy one or two of these, and then you're set for, you know, years to come. So it is a little bit of an investment, but man, once you learn the patterns of the deer, and you can kind of dictate that by managing your properties and force those deer every year to use the same trails and stuff, you can make those redneck blinds just a honey hole. Every year it's going to pay off for you. Kill one big mature buck, and another big mature buck's going to move right in.
Yeah, that's awesome. And, you know, the comfort of the hunt seems to be a game changer. If you can be comfortable, you're going to hunt longer, and you're going to spend more time there and kill that buck.
You're exactly right. I mean, and it seems like there's some people get stuck in the rut of, well, that ain't really hunting. You know, it's like they add more extremists to it to make it more pride factor of killing the deer. Meaning, like, if you didn't camp in a tent for 3 days in, you know, 20 degree and 12 inches of snow, and you didn't sit in daylight to dusk, you didn't really earn that deer. Whereas, I mean, don't get me wrong, hats off to those guys that do that, because there is no choice. But given a choice, I think all of us would rather enjoy the whole experience of the hunt. And, you know, if it allows me to have more time with my son or my wife to sit in a stand in a group setting, to me, you know, they're missing the point of the hunt. The hunt is not just about killing; it's the whole experience, and then the harvesting of the critter is just a cherry on top.
Right, for sure. Yeah, spending time with family and youngins is priceless in my eyes.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, Jay, you want to take T-Bone on one of his most memorable whitetail hunts with us?
Yeah, let's get into a hunt that maybe you've gone on recently, or maybe it's one a long time ago. I don't know, T-Bone.
Well, yeah, there's so many of them, and you know, I guess one that really stands out is I just told you I had bought that piece of property in Oklahoma, and we were hunting out there. Went there the early season. It's opened October 1st. I got there like on the 3rd. And on October the 7th, we had a trail cam pictures of one of the shooters that we had. That we nicknamed him Twitch, and the reason why is because on October the 7th, he came in, and you know I said, well, there's that deer. We hadn't named him Twitch at that time, but this deer he acted like he had flies or something in his ears all the time. It wasn't like he was nervous about coming in, but his mannerisms were all twitchy, like almost like a crackhead or something. I mean, he was just all twitchy. He was coming in there and
Twitch.
Yeah, so we called him Twitch.
That's excellent.
So he came in, he was at 42 yards, and I'm like, you know, that's as close as he's going to get. And we had lots of B-roll with him, and I draw back, and I said, okay, here we go. 42 yards, and I felt like I made a good shot, and I was anchored in, and I cut the arrow loose, and he dropped, and you know, I missed him. I went right over his back. We filmed the whole thing, and you know, anytime you miss one, you just your heart goes up in your throat, and I was like, man, I knew I did everything right, but you know, I didn't. He was nervous, and it's been my experience, you know, especially after this, and you know, looking back, and it kind of validates it more and more. But it seems like under 30, you don't have as much problem with the deer ducking the arrow, but it seems like there's a range there of about 30, 32 up to about 45. That's the most common distance that a deer is capable of dropping, and you know, because they have enough time to get out of the way. The bow sound, you know, makes them alert, and you know, they have more time to react. It just seems like you really need to shave a good 5 or 6 yards, or definitely aim, you know, the bottom of the heart. You know, if he doesn't move at all and he's a target, you cut the bottom of his heart out. If not, he's going to drop into it, and you'll be top of the lungs. But I didn't do that. I mean, I made a mistake and aimed, you know, top of the heart or middle of the body, and he dropped out of the way, and I went right over his back. So anyway, I thought over that. I just, you know, try to pride myself in making a quality shot and a good killing shot, and with me missing him, which I'm glad that I missed rather than wounded, because a lot of times, you know, it does happen that we wound.
Right. We
could use the footage. It wasn't entertaining, and it was just like, golly, I just missed. So with that said, we went back, well, it was November the 16th we went back. We're mid-November. We're tail end of the rut. We're in Oklahoma. We hunt in this area where we got more trail cam pictures of Twitch, and I'm like, man, there's a lot of good deer out here, but I sure would like to redeem myself on old Twitch. So had 2 more encounters with him, but it was too low light to shoot. I had him at 21 yards one time, and I had him at 31 yards another time, but the camera couldn't get him just because it was low light, so I couldn't shoot him. So I'm really frustrated now. I've had 3 encounters with this deer and can't get him on the ground. So November 21st rolls around, which is the first day of gun season. Well, we hadn't seen him in a couple of days, no trail cam pictures, and I'm thinking, where's he at? So what we had done is we're right on the Cimarron River is where the property is, yep. And we was in some cottonwood trees, tucked in some cedars. We had a couple of stands, and we had one of those redneck blinds set up too, and we was just jockeying back and forth based on the wind and such, and where we thought he was at. Well, we had a milo field planted, a millet field, and he kept coming in there, and he was checking on does and stuff like that, but we hadn't seen him, and he was always moving late at night. So what I thought is I can overlook this whole thing and cover it now that we're rifle hunting. So what I did is we went up the top of the hill. It was a cliff. It's probably about 60 foot overlooking the Cimarron River Valley. So I could see all the way to the river, which is about a 350-yard shot, and we took a shovel, and we cut us out a bench right at the top of that cliff so that we wouldn't be silhouetted. We was down about, we'll say, 10 feet into that cliff, and we cut us out a bench there. So we was right on the side of that cliff, and we were overlooking this whole bottom. And don't you know, that evening, the way the wind was, and it was a cold day, too. I think high was only about 33 or 4 degrees. We catch this deer coming. He came out like an hour before dark, but he was up against the base of that cliff. He crossed right underneath us, nowhere near where we had seen him before. But the way the wind was, the wind was coming across that millet food plot, and the food plot that we had, and it was coming across it. And I guarantee you what he was doing was he was scent checking that food plot to see if there was any does, or he was looking from afar to see if there was any activity there. And he was in I'll call it a plum thicket, but it was just a bunch of brush and mesquite and stuff that he was coming through there, just right up against the base of that cliff. Had we been in any stand, redneck blind or anything, would have never seen that deer. So he's right at the bottom of us at 90 yards, and we was getting some footage of him, but there's no way you could shoot him, so I had to wait till he went all the way past, and he popped out, and he's about 150 yards to our left, and I could see 2 does at about 200 yards, and I'm like, man, if he catches the wind of those 2 does or sees them, he's going to beeline to him, so now's the time. So he stepped out, and, luckily the old Tika 30-06 did its job, and even though I would have loved to kill him with my bow, man, it sure was a sweet redemption that I got him with the rifle.
Wow, yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, it turns out he's just shy of 160, real tight rack, only about a 15.5, 16-inch inside spread, but he was, pushing 160, so a fantastic deer, and going to make a great show with all the encounters and history we had with the deer.
Was he a heavy beam buck? Or
Yeah, real heavy beam, long brow tines, just long tines, just had everything, just not width, real heavy beams.
Gotcha, I love those. Love the thick racks.
Had a 26-inch neck, too. He's just real big body, huge body.
Sweet. Very nice, man.
Yeah.
Good hunt. That's great. All right, so are you ready for some 10 rapid-fire questions?
I guess so. I'm sure I'll botch it up somehow, but go ahead.
You'll be fine. What's your number one hunting tip of all time?
Hunting tip of all time is to make sure that you get set up archery-wise. We had talked about that earlier, is go to a pro shop, a reputable pro shop, and make sure that you get suited up properly, proper draw length, proper arrows, proper weight. I can't stress enough how important that is to get suited correctly and get fitted, and to make sure that you tuck that archery tech, that trusted archery tech in your back pocket. The mom and pop archery pro shop is invaluable, especially in the world of archery.
Gotcha. All right, so we all have this one thing that we bring into the woods with us. It's like a good luck charm. Sometimes it's useful in the field. Sometimes it just makes you feel good. But it drives us crazy when we leave it in our truck or at camp and we didn't bring it with us into the field. What's that one thing for you?
Well, I've had several over the years, but the one I've had lately is I got a SpongeBob figurine that my son gave me when I was 3, when he was 3, to take with me, and he's 10 now, but the SpongeBob he's got his nose is broke off, and one of his arms and both his legs are all broke off, but I still got the SpongeBob core, and I always have that somewhere on my backpack or in my backpack. That's my because we travel so much, that's my tie to home, or I see that when I'm digging through my pack and think of my boy and knowing that he gave that to me for good luck. So, yeah, if it gets left behind, I kind of feel empty, but I've had other things too, like a wristwatch. I had a wristwatch when I was a kid, and I hunted with it till I was like 35, and it didn't work, but I always took that same watch with me.
Gotcha. That's funny. Isn't it funny how we have these things? It's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What's your biggest pet peeve in life?
Rude, negative people. I'm not a hater of people by no means. I'd like to think I'm very open-minded, but if you're at a restaurant or you see someone that don't say yes sir, yes ma'am, and have good manners and don't hold doors open for ladies and rude to people at restaurants and waitresses and just rude in general and just negative, can't find the positive. That just irks me. I mean, it takes just as much energy to be nice and pay it forward as it does to be, rude and a butthole.
Right. No, I'm with you. It's not my favorite kind of person either by any means.
Yeah.
How old are you today, T-Bone?
47.
47. All right, so what would the 47-year-old T-Bone tell the 20-year-old T-Bone, knowing what you know today?
Make sure that you, education for sure, and I don't mean that. I mean, education is learn a trade, make sure that life is too short, make sure that you learn a trade or whatever you're going to do in life as a career. Make sure that I actually lived it, so I guess I'm passing that on to someone else. What would I tell myself?
Yeah. Gotcha.
I would probably say work harder at being in better health. That's what I would say.
Okay. All right. Very good. All right. You get let's go back to this other one. You're at a hunting trade show, and you're in the hotel lobby. A stranger comes up to you and starts a conversation, and he asks, "What do you do for a living?" What do you tell him?
I usually just without just to answer it, I just say I'm in the outdoor industry. That's the I guess the black and white generic answer. And then if they want to know more, if they seem interested, then by all means I'll continue to chat with them. But if it's just somebody like on a plane or the hotel lobby and they say, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" I'm just say, "Well, I'm in the outdoor industry," and then that either gives them the open door to say, "Oh, what do you do in the outdoor industry?" Or they say, "Oh, okay."
Right.
So I guess that's a generic answer is outdoor industry. And then if not, I just say, I don't know.
See where the conversation goes. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I play it by ear.
Gotcha. Very nice. What'd you have for breakfast this morning?
Had a chicken and bacon Swiss biscuit from Hardee's.
Oh, man.
Sounds pretty tasty, really.
Sounds really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm liking that. Very cool.
It was about 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock. All right. That's sounds like some good turkey hunting breakfast to me.
Yeah.
So you get your own billboard. It's a blank canvas. You can put anything on it that you want. What would it say?
Billboard for like on the side of the road?
Yep, it's yours.
But what am I advertising like?
Whatever you want. What would you? It could be something for your business, your life, a theory, a philosophy in life. Whatever you wanted to put on it. What would you say? It could be a hashtag. Whatever.
Oh man.
All kinds of stuff. This is a deep question.
Yeah. A hashtag. I mean, something that I live by is life's too short. I do believe that. As I'm getting older, you're getting more people that getting disease. Losing family members and such like that, and so many of my dad's friends and stuff say, "Hey, when I retire, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that," and I'm almost like, "Why wait to do that? Do it now. Why?" And then you can live the memory when you're 60, 65, 70 retirement. So I do live by that. Life's too short, so
Gotcha.
Enjoy it.
Okay. If I say the word successful to you, who's the first person that comes into your head and why?
I'd say Michael Waddell.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of my closest friends, but I also, I admire what he's done. Me, Michael, and Nick all come from humble beginnings, and Michael is just a people person. He's a great guy. He's built a great business. He's got a great brand. I think of him. Bill Jordan also, same way. But Michael coming from such humble beginnings and coming from a heating and air conditioning mechanic that is a turkey caller that climbed the ladder through Realtree and then started his own brand and has just become one of the most well-known hunters out there now. So even though I'm a partner and friend and a cohort with him, I still look up to him. I'm not going to say idolize, but definitely respect all that he's done.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think he's one of those guys that's at the top of the food chain, definitely, when it comes to the hunting industry, for sure.
Absolutely, yeah, well respected and got a good reputation, and he's always smiling, positive attitude, and a lot to be admired about from him.
Very much so. All right, so what's a day in the life of T-Bone Travis Turner look like?
Well, it's more like a week. Weekends, it depends on what day you're getting me. Usually, this time of year, I do a lot of expos and banquets and appearances. I've not had a weekend off since before Christmas. Every weekend I speak at a banquet or work some type of expo or grand opening of a store. So we do a lot of that on the weekend. So usually Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then travel home on Sundays. And my weekend is usually Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. But it's not really a weekend because we're doing office work. We're pretty hands-on with all of our sponsors and partners and licensees and phone calls and emails and podcasts and such. So through the week, we're doing that. So and we squeeze in turkey hunting and deer hunting, and we kind of slow down on the appearances in the fall because we're trying so hard to capture so much footage for the Realtree road trips and bone collector shows. So everybody thinks that we're just busy throughout the fall, and then you pretty much take off the spring and the summer. And I'm not complaining. It's just a changing of seasons. You go from promotions and events, trade shows, and consumer shows, and then I'm fortunate enough to be the national spokesperson for Whitetails Unlimited, which is a conservation group out of it's the largest whitetail conservation group out of Wisconsin. So I have to do about 30 or 40 banquets a year. They do 650 of them a year, but I do about 30 or 40 of them.
Gotcha. Very nice. So what's a deer hunting day in the life look like? Does that change from the regular day?
Absolutely, yeah. You get to the stand before daylight based on what time of year and how you're feeling. You hunt 3, 4, 5 hours in the morning, get down, maybe do some scouting, come back, eat some lunch, maybe take a quick nap, get back out there for the 3 hours in the evening. I'm definitely an evening hunter way more than a morning. And then, a lot of times in that mid-November around the rut, we'll go daylight to dark. Sure, we'll probably happens half a dozen to a dozen times a year, but we'll do all-day sets, and those are rough. Those are real rough. But, you got to be there when they're coming, so that's the time to be out there. But to go back on that, I'm definitely an evening hunter over morning, and just to shine a little light on that, seems like when you get there in the evening, you're waiting on it to get better. It's like the whole time you're getting there, it's better, 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 better. And then you're like, when do I go? Well, it's dark. You go home. Whereas in the mornings, seems like it's getting worse because the best movement's that first 30 minutes to an hour, and then it slows down. But then you get 9:30 or 10 o'clock, and you're thinking, well, I haven't seen anything. Does that mean they're going to move late, or should I get down? So you always struggle with, should I get down? Should I sit longer? What should I do? So at least at nighttime, it's getting better, 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 and then it's like, it's dark, time to go home. You don't have to make no decision.
That makes sense, though.
All right, I just got this text from Jackson Bishop. He says, ask T-Bone about me giving him 2 Hornady shotgun shells. You want to fill us in on that one?
Yeah. So we're sponsored with Hornady, and we're sponsored by Hornady, and Hornady is a fine manufacturer of rifle ammunition, pistol ammunition. The only shotgun shells I believe they make are turkey loads. They don't make like bird loads or target loads. It's just turkey hunting loads. So they shipped in several boxes or cases of turkey shells last year for us. We had been with them for about all through the fall 2 years ago. Well, come turkey season, they shipped it into the office. So I said, hey Jackson, turkey season's fixing to start. I'm going to drop by the office and pick up some shotgun shells, so that when we're filming and stuff, I'm using the right brand and stuff. And he said, okay. So he set me out 3 shells is what he set me out last year. As a joke. He said, well, here's your 3 shells. You're only allowed 3, so you don't need no more than that. So he's picking on me because they pick on me because they call me the Mother Hen. Maybe I'm just a few years older than them. They call me the Mother Hen because I'm the one that's detailed, like we talked about earlier on, and I'm the one that's real aim-like, set up all of our bows, and I'm the one that plans ahead, and everybody else is kind of fly by their seat. So they pick on me about that, and I can take it. I got broad shoulders, so he gave me 3 shells. Well, this year it's ongoing now, so he gave me 3 shells. Well, then after that he had me a whole box, so I had a whole box. So a couple of weeks ago I asked him. I said, hey, did the Hornady send in any more shells? I killed a couple birds last year. I'd like to get some more shells. So and he goes, yeah, me and Michael was talking about that, and he said you killed 2 birds last year, so I got 2 more shells for you. For this, in a text is what he sent me.
Gotcha.
So So even now, I still haven't got any more shells, so I'm still working off the 3 or 4 that I had from last year. But each time I've killed a turkey this year, I send him a picture and show him the empty hole, and he says, "I'm going to put you a shell in the mail today, buddy." So ongoing, I'm on shotgun shell ration with Jackson.
Shotgun shell ration with Jackson.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good, man.
Travis, where can our people and listeners find you at when you're not here with us on the mic?
Well, social media is we're all real proud that we have a strong social media platform. Instagram, Twitter, and my Facebook page is all T-Bone Outdoors. You can find me there. We try to update something at least every other day or something like that. So we got a pretty strong following, and you never know what you're going to see. It may be certainly something hunting related, something current event, or definitely comical. We're big on that. So you'll get a chuckle from time to time on T-Bone Outdoors, and then naturally you can follow us at Realtree.com, Realtree's Facebook and social medias, and then Bone Collector social medias too. So look at and I also have a website, TBoneOutdoors.com, and you can see my whole schedule. It's jam packed. I've got banquets and stuff. I don't have another weekend off till Memorial Day. So
T-Bone, it's been fantastic. Thanks for joining us on the Big Buck Podcast, man. It's been great.
Oh, absolutely, guys, man. Thanks for having me, and thanks for you guys flying the flag and continuing to run the podcast, which is basically a online redneck pep rally, but we appreciate what y'all do.
Yes, it is. You're absolutely right. T-Bone's got it going on.
Oh, the knowledge, dude. I just said, T-Bone, you blew me away, brother. My hat's off to you and the knowledge that you have about archery equipment. Holy smokes, Jay.
Just absolutely intense, and he's having a good time, and we hope he just keeps doing it for as long as he can, because he's entertaining. I thought it was very funny how he said he's kind of the Mother Hen. They call him the Mother Hen, how he takes care of everything, but he's so detail-oriented. I can see how that might happen.
Yeah, no doubt. In a sense, you got to have somebody that takes the lead and fine-tunes everything.
Right. What do you think the Mother Hen in our crew is? Between me, you, Mike Behrman, Greg, who's the Mother Hen there?
I'm going with Greg.
Me too. I'm going to say Greg's the Mother Hen. Yep, that was my answer as well.
Yeah, he went in and fluffed the nest every day and got us laid out just right.
Yeah, it was awesome. He was able to put you guys up. He has 2 sons, obviously, who are older now and have moved on, and so he had a couple empty beds for our turkey camp, and that was so cool. But thanks to Travis T-Bone Turner for joining us on the Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast. Just learned a ton from him, and wish him all the success in the world with his endeavors under the bone collector and whatever else he decides to get into. Dusty, do we have a Chubby Tines tip of the week this week?
We do, Jay.
The Chubby Tines tip of the week is sponsored by Morse's Sporting Goods. Firearms, used firearms, bows, used bows, located at 85 Kentucky Falls Road in Hillsborough, New Hampshire. Give Jim a call at 603-464-3444, morsessportinggoods.com. Your dollars go further in New Hampshire. There's no sales tax. Morse's Sporting Goods.
Right now is a great time to get out and, stop and see your landowners and the people that you hunt on property. Just stop and talk with them and make sure that they know that you're interested in your fall season hunting. If you're not already turkey hunting on that piece of property, you can get in there and talk to them about hunting and maybe get that written permission if you got to get it, or just get it locked in. If you wait too long and they don't hear from you or see you, it's just a great thing to stop in and keep in touch and contact with the landowners and the people that you hunt on, or if you lease a place, just stop in and see them and say hey and ask them how things are going and maybe offer up if you can do something to help out on the farm, and just keep a great connection with your landowners. That goes a long way.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome, man. That's landowner connections can't be any more important to your deer hunt. I mean, the more you can communicate with them, the better off you're going to be. Yep, great piece of advice there. Awesome, very good. So, Dusty, where can we find you when we're not hanging out here together on the Big Buck Registry Deer Hunting Podcast?
Facebook.com/Chubby Tines Outdoors. Shoot me an email, dusty@bigbuckregistry.com. Or if you want to get a little bit of my personal life, look me up on Instagram @ChasingAntler. Jay, where can the people reach out to you when you're not on the mic?
The absolute best way to get a hold of me personally is jay@bigbuckregistry.com. That's my email address. If you'd like to check out the Facebook page where we're all hanging out, all 230,000 plus fans and diehard deer hunting contingent, go to bigbuckregistry.com/Facebook. We're also on Twitter, twitter.com/bigbuckregistry. Shoot us a tweet if you could. Do a hashtag BBR if you're out there. And you can check us out on Instagram. It's Big Buck Registry there as well, instagram.com/Big Buck Registry. If you have a deer that you would like to submit to the Big Buck Registry, all you have to do is go to bigbuckregistry.com/mybuck, and all the instructions will be right there for you. Or if you're an Apple user, give us a like. Leave us a review on iTunes if you could. And please, if you would like to get these shows delivered to your phone every single week once a show airs, and you'd like to be notified, all you have to do is subscribe in your iTunes or your podcast app. We're on the Google Play podcast app right now, and we're on Stitcher and Blueberry and all kinds of other places, specifically Apple if you have an iPhone. And last but not least, if you'd like to become a patron of the show, go to bigbuckregistry.com/donate, and you'll see all the different options there, one of which can get you a hat and a t-shirt. So kind of cool. Other than that, man, I think that's it. I think that's a wrap.
A whole lot of big buck, Jay.
A whole lot of big buck. I'm Jay Scott.
And I'm Dusty Phillips.
This is the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast. We'll see you next week.
Can't wait.